little background on the scripture that you're going to hear. The scripture is going to deal with the question that we're going to deal with, and that is why. You might note that this series will conclude next Sunday with the statement, why God's love will prevail. Previous sermons have dealt with other questions that arose from Adam Hamilton's book by the same title, Why. That's available at the Welcome Center. The essence of what we're dealing with today will be, why can't I see, why can't I understand God's will for my life? The other sermons, if you've missed them, both on Saturday night and Sunday morning, dealing with other questions, can be found on our website. But right now, we're going to deal with the God's will question, and I want to preface it by saying this. Two passages, two brief snippets from two of Paul's letters will be presented. One snippet from the book of Romans, where Paul is writing to a growing church in a growing city. The other snippet is from his letter to the church at Colossae, a declining city and possibly a declining church. But the one thing that is unique to both of them is the phrase, will of God. As you hear our guest read it, I want you to please ask yourself, what is this passage, or what are these passages telling me about how I should discern God's will in my life? And I have to say, I'm greatly looking forward to hearing them read in the King's English. Thank you.
The first lesson is taken from St. Paul's letter to the Romans. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds, so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect.
The second lesson is taken from St. Paul's letter to the Colossians. For this reason, since the day we heard it, we have not ceased praying for you and asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of God's will in all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that you may lead lives worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him, as you bear fruit in every good work and as you grow in the knowledge of God. The word of God for the people of God.
I think it is safe to say that you've not really experienced church until you've had Voces 8 sing hymns behind you. Ooh. That was what the songwriters intended, so thank you very much. Looking forward to tonight. And it is interesting that we have our guest from England here today, because I'm beginning my sermon with the thoughts of another person who lived in London, a few years ago, John Wesley. Because the subject that we're dealing with, the will of God, was very important to him, and he popularized a tool for discerning God's will in one's life. He called it, or maybe we've come to call it, the Wesleyan quadrilateral, 4 sides. Here it is. 4 ways to seek or discern God's will. First, obviously, you start with Scripture. What does the Bible say? But you understand that through filtering the biblical words and a situation you might encounter through the filters of reason. Does it make sense? Experience, what past do you have that sheds light on the subject, and of course what people throughout the ages have said, the tradition. And this is a helpful tool I've included in the sermon notes for you to take home and use. Might be, like I said, helpful for the future. But for the purpose of this sermon, I don't want to focus so much on how do I discern God's will. I think it will be more helpful for us today to focus on who is this God whose will I'm seeking. Let us pray. Lord our God, would you please, in these next few moments, through what we see, think, and feel, would you please open us to who you really are and what you would have us do? Amen.
Bobby, will you come in here for a minute, please?
Yes, sir.
I've got about 1 million pages to do today, but I need your help on something.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it seems that some of my creations have begun drifting from the plan a bit.
Drifting, sir?
Yeah, improvising, diverging.
Well, that is not good.
Yeah, look. See Doug Roberts right here? Now, he wants to change schools. I mean, we had him all set up. Now he's not going to meet Mary Beth. He's not going to go to grad school. Instead, he's ending up at the Peace Corps. Wow, look at all those ripples.
Wow, what a mess.
I guess that's what I get for including creativity and compassion in their DNA.
Well, I know how those feelings they get can be very strong.
Feelings should not enter into it. What's important is what is up there in black and white. I mean, I laid all this out. It's perfect as it is.
I understand, sir. But, sir, it does seem like a bit of a waste for them not to be able to improvise a bit. I mean, they have lots of talents and abilities that you gave them, sir. Seems like a lost opportunity.
Well, you know, I hear what you're saying, Bobby, but, you know, humanity is never going to be mature enough to really handle the most important things without help. They improvise, you know, and when that happens, they go riding off in all directions without following the plan. Look, I know where I want my subjects to end up, and I know how they have to be there, how they have to get there. I mean, it's my will be done, not theirs.
Right, sir.
So let's get them back on the plan, shall we? Nicely, if possible.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
It's like herding cats. That's something else I got to work on.
Now, certainly what you just saw with Mr. G and Bobby, you can think, that's a bit over the top. And I agree. Yet, let's be honest, there's a bit of the faith in that type of God built into our DNA. I think it must have come from the cave people. You know, a mastodon tramples the forest down and all of this, and people think that they have missed or displeased God in some fashion and wreaking vengeance upon them. It's that sense that there is a master plan and that God will prod or push or punish till that perfect plan is accomplished. If you saw the movie The Adjustment Bureau, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's that mysterious plan, ultimate perfect plan from a perfect higher power that you never see. It's almost like that banker in Deal or No Deal. You know, some shady little character. Perfect plan. And that if you don't conform to it, well, your feelings, your dreams, your hopes, they're all gone. It's the plan that's what's important, and people are pawns in making that plan happen or not. I cannot think of something that's more, I don't know if you want to say blasphemous or not, than to think that the God of Jesus Christ is like that. Because how does that make God look? Someone comes to comfort you in your grief, whatever that grief might be, in your pain. And what do they say? Well, you must take comfort in that it is God's will, as if it's part of a higher plan, and you and your feelings are expendable. Blasphemous. Because Jesus would have said no. Jesus would have interrupted that little drama. Because Jesus called God not Mr. Adjustment Bureau, but Abba, of course. Daddy, Dad. This type of God is a God who loves you so much, is intimate with you, knows even the number of hairs upon your head. For some of us, that's not much of a trick, but it can be, you know. That's how close that God is, who cares, who's with you, who says, Jesus' words, it is my Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. As a matter of fact, God, according to Jesus, is not that shadowy banker and dealer no deal, but God has a human face. It's reflected in Jesus' face. And the words of this God are not communicated via a telephone to Howie, but rather communicated directly through the voice box of the one who came to live among us full of grace and truth. This is the God Jesus lived and died to reveal to us in an intimate fashion. Daddy. This is a God. And if really, truly, this is who God is, well, then we have to understand that God relates to us. This God, this Daddy, relates to us in a totally different way than what you had just witnessed.
Bobby, come in here. I've got a new page.
Yes, Mr. G.
Take a look at this.
Ah, another rewrite.
Yeah, this is a good one. You remember Doug Roberts?
Oh, yeah.
I had him going on the football scholarship, meeting Mary Beth at the frat party, going to grad school, and then going on to Boeing. Mm-hmm. He wants to change schools. Yeah, so that means he's not going to meet Mary Beth, but he's going to end up at the Peace Corps instead of grad school.
Wow. Well, I guess that's what you get when you put compassion and creativity right in their DNA.
Yeah. Well, you know, I still think it's just so amazing when they take what I've given them and write a whole new storyline for themselves. It's so gratifying to see them take on a life of their own.
Do you ever worry whether they'll end up where you want them to be?
Yeah, well, sometimes. But, you know, so long as they keep seeking and kind of following the broad outline I've given them, I think creativity, improvisation, these are good things. I mean, it's very exciting.
But what if they drift a long ways away?
Well, look, I have to let them handle some things on their own. I mean, they love to accomplish things, and I'd love to see them accomplish those things. We're both on an adventure. And, I mean, otherwise, what's the point of all those talents and abilities I've given them if they can't put them to use?
Yeah. But, sir, what if they drift a really long ways away?
Bobby, you know, I'm always here for them. I'm here whether I'm encouraging them or working with them as their story unfolds. If they really need me, I'm definitely there, even though it may not always be in the way that they expect.
That's certainly true. Yeah. Just when I think I've seen and heard everything, you'll write something that surprises even me.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's good to know. I'd hate to be predictable. So look, take Doug's file there, update it, and then keep it close by, because you never know. He's full of surprises. He may give us a few that we haven't expected.
You got it, Mr. G.
All right, thanks. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah, surprises.
Do you know how privileged you are? How many people have ever had a chance to really see Daddy in action? That's exactly, I believe, what Jesus had in mind when he had the audacity to shock people by calling God such an intimate term as a parent, you know? And what a privilege it is for us to really not just witness it, but dare believe it. Because, as we said last week, we just have seen now, You are loved so much that God has chosen you to be the main character in a novel about you. Really. Imagine this. Imagine, before you were ever created, God leaned back in a comfy chair and dreamt of you, your talents, your gifts, your potential, understanding as well your growing edges and some of the things you would have to overcome. And with anticipation and with excitement, just as a mom and dad at the moment of birth of a child, that is what Dad felt. Seeing you come into this world, being with you day in and day out, week in and week out, seeing you grow and imagining the storylines, typing them out, knowing you, envisioning the best for you, and even better, being able to use white out when necessary. To start a whole new storyline because Dad heard something you said, saw something that you were going to pursue, and said, okay, we're going to see where this goes. We're going to play this out. I can't wait for this adventure. Because God, as a good novelist should, is the God who will take everything, no matter what we do, and mold it back to a plot that will ultimately resolve itself so that you, at the end of your life, can look back and say, yeah, okay, what a trip it's been. What an adventure it's been. Look at the people I met, the beauty I saw, the things I did, the way the world is a little better place now because I was able to be there. Wow. That's what Daddy does. Collaborates with us. Doesn't just get an ironclad word processor that writes out everything and says, okay, nothing will change. But every chapter, maybe every page, God collaborates, listens, talks, enjoys, and rewrites until the novel comes to the end the way God had intended it, while giving us freedom, while giving us that sense of adventure. Now, we started the sermon with what is God's will. I want to suggest to you, we know what God's will is. I mean, if Jesus did anything, it was to show us God's will. We are to love even our enemies. We are to be drum majors, as Dr. King said, for justice and righteousness. We are to be reconcilers, not fragmenters. We are to feed the hungry. We are to visit the sick. We are to give comfort to the lonely. All the things that you saw in our Faith in Action video. We know God's will. And as we know what our novelist has in mind for us in terms of the guidelines for our lives and to live such fruitful lives, that's where we discover life. That's where we discover our novelist writing us into a book that will be a bestseller. The problem is, and we all know what the problem is, we sometimes forget that there is a dad with a typewriter and whiteout. We think we are the ones who are to write the story of our lives, right? We're in control. We know the standards by which we should live. We see them every day. MTV, CNBC, BBC, all the little B's and C's, We see all these things and we're okay, yeah, we'll pursue that, and we forget that there is one who came to live among us, full of that grace and truth, to write a bestseller for our lives. John Wesley knew this, knew our tendency to forget where our loyalties and our priorities should be. That's why he suggested that every year his Methodist societies should do a covenant service, a watch night service, and there should be that prayer, the prayer that all these Methodists should pray that will remind them that they are not writing a solo book. They are collaborating with Dad. And this prayer helped recall to the minds of those early Methodists who they were and whose they were. I want you to pray this prayer with me, and I want you to feel that prayer possibly and the power of it as those early Methodists felt it. Pray it with me. I am no longer my own, but thine. Put me to what thou wilt. Rank me with whom thou wilt. Put me to doing. Put me to suffering. Let me be employed for thee or laid aside for thee, exalted for thee or brought low for thee. Let me be full, let me be empty. Let me have all things, let me have nothing. I freely and heartily yield all things to thy pleasure and disposal. And now, O glorious and blessed author of my life, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, thou art mine and I am thine. So be it. And the covenant which I have made on earth, let it be ratified in heaven. And do you know that if you prayed that prayer from your heart, and Dad was behind this typewriter, behind this desk, and heard you praying that, your desire to be in touch and be in tune with what the novelist, with what Dad wants, do you know how that novelist, that Dad would say, yes, that's what I had in mind. And my, oh my, the words would fly off that typewriter, you know? Because you collaborate, you're a partner, and you know that the greatest joy you can have is to be attentive to the storyline and the ideas that God has, Dad has, just as Dad is attentive to your ideas, crazy though they may be at times. Now, I have saved the best for last. You want to hear the kicker? Well, I can tell you're excited about it. Yeah, good, good. Well, here it is. If you read a really good novelist, you're reading a chapter, maybe it's 11:30, maybe you're reading it on the plane, you know, coming over. You're reading and you say, oh, I'm so sleepy, I'm tired. I'll just end this chapter and put the bookmark in. You're reading, but toward the end of the chapter, something happens. A surprise, something out of the blue, curveball, whatever you call it. And you go, ooh, I got to read more. And so instead of ending there, you just have to go because you encountered a surprise. Something caught you. Something intrigued you. You got to read more. This is what our God does. A master of surprises. And you've seen those surprises as you've lived out your life, as you've written your chapters. It might be a time in which you felt totally depressed, sad, down, and somehow, somewhere, for some reason, a person, friend, puts a hand on the shoulder, and suddenly, you know, life's not that bad. Or you hear a song, or you read a poem, or you hear a scripture. You see a drama, and suddenly something comes to you out of the blue that gives you a new way of looking at things, and you start a new course, take a new direction. Surprises, because our God is active and loving and can't wait to throw a burning bush your way and make you go, ooh, and keep reading and keep writing and keep living. Those are the surprises that I think every one of us could point to. But you know, some of the best surprises that God gives, actually the ones when we are the surprise to someone else to help them. Adam Hamilton in his book gives a great story of this. He says that he's about 9 o'clock at night leaving his church, leaving his office. As he goes down the hall, he hears, "Hi, Pastor Adam." It's a woman who's just sitting there, 9 o'clock at night. Adam's in a hurry to go home. He rushes past her. "Well, hello. I hope you have a great evening." Continues out the door. But as he gets onto the parking lot, a thought comes to his mind. It's, did you see that woman? Really see her? Go back and really see her. So he does. And he discovers that the woman had been sitting there about an hour because it was the year anniversary of her son's death. And he was buried in the church's memorial garden. And it's very interesting how Adam, and these are his words, describes the conclusion of that story. She said, "I've been praying that God would give me a sign that my son is okay. And at that moment, you walked past the garden. I thought you were my sign." We went to the memorial garden and spent several minutes talking and praying. And when I left, she wasn't crying anymore. I left feeling that I had been part of something God was doing, grateful that I had not ignored the Spirit's nudging. This kind of thing happens to me on a regular basis when I'm paying attention. I don't see these as coincidence, but as God incidents. When we invite the Spirit to lead us and when we seek to do God's will, we find ourselves in the midst of God's bigger story and playing a part in God's redemptive work in other people's lives. When this happens, I always feel a sense of remarkable joy. May you and I be open to these God incidents. Look for them. Thank God for them. For they are signs that God does not run an adjustment bureau. No, they are signs God is a living, loving, active God, ready for an adventure with you. The only question is, are we ready for that adventure? You know the answer to that question. Let us stand.